Are you confused on Great One grinding here in the Hunter Call of the Wild? Lost on all the different methods that you see online? Well, I am here to tell you that it's not that complicated. It really isn't. It's one of those things that are so simple it's complicated. By the end of this video, there should be absolutely no reason why you would have any confusion whatsoever. As I always say, if you have literally any questions, let me know down below. Someone or myself will get back to you ASAP. In this video, I am going to teach you in the simplest way possible. There is no other guide out there that's going to be more simple than this one. That's what I'm known for here on YouTube, is extreme detail in my guides. So by the end of this video, you will know the basics of setting up, the basics of herd management. I'm going to be making a herd management guide here very soon, so turn on notifications and subscribe if you're not already, so that way you get notified for that. And I'll be doing it in the extreme simplicity that I'm going to be making this guide in. I have herd management guides on my channel already that explain everything you need to know, but for some reason it just doesn't click with some people, and you know what? I had a hard time with it too. So without further ado, my friends, wasting no more of your time, let's go ahead and learn in the simplest way that any YouTuber could possibly bring to you how to grind and spawn any Great One in the Hunter Call of the Wild. So no matter what grind it is that you're doing besides the pheasant grind, the very first step to any Great One grind is going to be to find all of your animals' need zones. Now, if you're grinding an animal that has a drink time, mule deer, white-tailed deer, moose, black bear, red deer, fallow deer, or the red fox, you're gonna need to find all of that species' drink zones in its drink zones only. Now, certain species have way more drink zones than others in different maps. You're gonna need to watch a specific Great One guide for that individual species to be able to get all of that information. Now, I'm going to be redoing all those guides here very soon, but don't go anywhere just yet, as this video is going to teach you what you need to know to spawn a Great One, so that way when you go to watch those individual guides, you're literally just there for the information, which most likely can also be found in my Discord server, which is linked below, in the present day. I will go ahead and toss a hotspot map for some of the most popular grinds in the game, which also happen to be the easiest grinds in the game, up on screen for you guys right now, for species with drink zones that'll show you when and where you can find them. Legitimately, all you need to do is pick your species, find a hotspot map for that species, set it to that species' drink time, and run over and over again every single place that they can possibly drink at, which is highlighted on the hotspot map. Now, my hotspot maps are currently in development, and as soon as I get all of them done, they will be releasing in my Discord server, and I'm also going to be doing a detailed map guide series. So you'll be able to just click on a video and legitimately learn everything you need to know about that map and its species. So now for the species that don't have drink times. This would be, I believe, only pheasants and tar. Now for species that don't drink, you will not need to find all of their need zones, but keep in mind these usually end up being some of the longest and most challenging grinds. So after you are fairly certain that you've found all of your need zones, how do you know if you have all your need zones? Well, first off, the reason that we need to find at least, and I say at least in bold letters, the majority of our drink zones is so that way we can get consistent respawns. What consistent respawns means is when you shoot an animal out of an individual zone, for example, this mule deer zone here, I'm gonna shoot this buck, just like so. That buck will then respawn in the exact same zone that I just shot it out of. Now, if I didn't have all of my drink zones discovered, which I do, this is a fully herd managed Great One grind that I've spawned 4 Great Ones in along with 2 super rares, is it would respawn somewhere completely random where they can be on my map. Having all of your drink zones will guarantee that you get consistent respawns. At least 90% of the time you are going to have the occasional jumper, but it's way easier to manage if you have all of your need zones found. So as you can assume, in order to tell if you have all your need zones or not, pick 1 or 2 zones, maybe try it on 2, just because sometimes, like I said, they can jump, but it's more than likely that they'll respawn if you have the majority of your need zones. Shoot a male, reset the time, leave the game, come back in, make sure you're on a fresh startup, and then check the zone to see if there's a new male there. As long as you have all of your need zones, or at least the vast majority of them, like I said, there definitely should be. Otherwise, you probably have more zones to find. So some tips that I would recommend to you when searching for all of your need zones is definitely make sure that you have it set to at least 2 hours before the end of their need zone time. So for example, mule deer drink 15 to 18. I always set the time to 1700 to pretty much guarantee that they're going to be there. As to add realism to the game, they all don't just show up at the same time. That wouldn't be realistic. Some of them don't even show up at all. That's another reason why you need to run every single area they can possibly be multiple times, because on your first run, you could have walked over a zone that you didn't even know was there simply because the animal didn't show up. Now I'd say like 95% of the time all of the animals show up if it's an hour before the end of their time, but believe me, I've seen it happen sometimes, especially if there's predators in the area that can spook animals, or sometimes, like I said, they just don't show up. So you're gonna need to run it multiple times, there's no way around it. Another tip is to make sure that you have your binoculars out constantly and you're spotting the water's edge, or you're spotting as much ground as you possibly can, so that way you do not miss a single need zone. I do use the Apex View binoculars, which can be found in the in-game store, under the binoculars section. Now at this point in the guide, you should have all of your need zones found, and you should be getting consistent respawns. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys enough of herd management to go out and get yourself started. Now as always, I would suggest watching a detailed herd management guide to get every piece of information that you need, but I'm going to teach you pretty much the basics and everything that you need to know to get out and get started. Just going to grab that buck real quick. So step 2 to Great One grinding, and kinda frankly step 1 to herd management, is going to be to get set up. Whether you're using HM or not, you still need to set up. So I'm gonna go ahead and teach you guys, first and foremost, how to set up. Okay, so the only grind that this is not going to apply to, in a way it kind of still applies, but the only grind that it'll be slightly different in the sense of what we're doing here is going to be the pheasant grind, simply because of the fact instead of using tripods, we use ground layout blinds over in the pheasant grind. That simple, that's literally the only difference. Oh, and we place the ground layout blind on top of the zone, so you might want to keep that in mind as well. But anyways, to get set up, the very first thing that you're gonna need to do is buy yourself the tent limit. Now on each individual map, there's a limit of 16 tents, so go ahead and buy yourself a minimum of 16 tents and 16 tripods. For tripods, you can buy up to 32, but for right now, you're really only gonna need 16. Now, go ahead, pick 16 zones, it doesn't matter where or how, just make sure there are shooter animals in those 16 zones. And again, you're going to need to watch a specific herd management guide for your species to classify what a shooter animal is. To keep it extremely simple, minimum weight animals usually get left, or the small animals usually get left. So for example, this buck right here is a non-shooter mule deer. Why? Because 105 to 140 is the minimum weight for a buck. 140 to 175 is medium weight, that's a shooter. And then 175 to 210 is max weight, that's their shooter as well. Any weight track bigger than that would be a great one, then you're gonna have a heart attack. Now again, to find out that information for your specific species, wait until the end of this video and go watch a Great One guide for your specific species. Once you've found your first zone that you're gonna begin to get set up at, go ahead, drop a waypoint on that zone. For this example here, there's actually 2 zones that I'm going to use 1 tent for, so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to go ahead and drop a waypoint right in the middle of these 2 mule deer zones, and I'm going to go ahead and run a minimum of 250 meters in the opposite direction. Now I believe spook radius for spawning into tents or outposts is like 240 meters, so 250 is just to be safe. But I'm like, I think a little over 300. From the middle of the zones at least. That would put me at roughly 250 from the closer zone, and probably, yeah, 300 from the other zone. After that point, now what you're going to want to do is run up to 150 meters. Now it doesn't have to be 150 meters if you're comfortable with longer shots, or if you have 2 zones like this example here, just run to a point where you're going to be comfortable and you have a clear shooting window for your zone or zones. You also want to make sure that, like I said, it's a minimum of 150, because once you get past 150, the animals are going to hear you running. And obviously, efficiency is key here. You want to be able to run from your tent to your tripod, because you don't want to spook anything. Otherwise, you wouldn't have anything to shoot. From that point, I'm sure you can assume, place down your tripod, hop in and give it a try. As you can see, very clear shots at these deer here. These deer out here, I usually have clear shots too, but the stupid gray wolves spook them. So this is a shooter buck. I'm gonna go ahead and clip him real quick. Now, do not worry about claim tents this early off in your grind. You're not going to use those until you make it into your main zones, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. All you need for now is the tent to fast travel to 250 meters from your zone, or zones, and then your tripod to where you can run into it and not spook them, and shoot the zones easily without having to worry about shooting through trees. Obviously, there's going to be some exceptions, especially if you're in a thicker map like Hirschfelden, where grinding is a massive challenge in general. Now from this point, what you guys are going to want to do is go ahead and use all 16 of your tents to set up in 16 different zones. Or I guess I should say areas, because there's going to be a lot of different occurrences where you might have multiple zones where you can use one tent and one tripod for. So just use all 16 of your fast travel tents. And once you're set up at 16 of those zones, what you guys are going to want to do is go ahead and find out the information for your grind. Now I already told you what it is for the mule deer, the medium weights and above. Simply put, you're going to want to find out what you need to shoot. And then once you've found that out, which all of the information can be found in my Discord server, literally just go to my Discord server, link in the description, go to general. Or if you want it to be even easier than that, just ask me down in the comments and I'll tell you what it is. Maybe I'll even make a pinned comment for all the information in the entire game because I'm that nice. And then now that you know what to shoot, I think this is where a lot of people get confused. Let's just kind of do a quick recap for those of you guys that need it. You should be set up at 16 separate zones with a tent and a tripod. And legitimately all that you do now is start shooting. It's that simple. When you spot a non-shooter animal, perfect example right here like this mule deer, see minimum weight, absolutely tiny deer, that would classify as a non-shooter, you literally just leave it. And then I spot over here to my right, oh, what's that? That's a shooter deer. 140 to 175, that's a medium weight. So what you're going to want to do now is go ahead and blast them into next year. And you keep repeating this process until your entire zone fills with non-shooter animals. So my whole zone should look like this buck here. Unless you want to keep the zone as your main zone. Now this is a very nice wide open zone, not very many trees, so I do use this zone as a main zone, so I will be shooting the small bucks out of it. And you need 8 to 10 main zones at a minimum, otherwise you're literally just going to shoot down your entire map, which obviously in the long run you're going to need main zones to rotate off of, because that's where the grind gets extremely efficient. You're going to use claim tents, yada yada. In your main zones, any buck dies. I search for my main zones when I'm shooting down my exterior zones, which if you're following along with this video, that should be what you're doing right now. Just going to go ahead and grab these 2 bucks real quick. And when I find a zone that I like and want to keep as a main zone, I take a screenshot of it and circle it with a little virtual highlighter thing on my PC. You don't need to worry about setting up super efficiently at this zone. You don't need to worry about what's in it, kind of, right now. Stacking diamonds can help you shoot down your exterior zones, which if you want to learn about stacking and whatnot, watch a detailed herd management guide. They're just little tips and tricks that will help you out that I think confuse a lot of people that I'm not going to talk about in this video. So another recap. As I mentioned, extreme detail in these guides. What you should be doing right now is you should be set up at 16 zones and you should be shooting the shooter animals only, and you should be leaving the non-shooter animals. Now, when a zone fills with non-shooter animals, that would be a shot down zone. You're gonna get a lot of these, and that's a good thing. Once you find a zone that's fully shot down, it has no more shooter animals left in it, pick up your tent, pick up your tripod, and move on to another zone. See, I think a lot of people get confused there. They're like, how am I supposed to set up at every single zone with 16 tents? You're not. You're not, my friends. You set up at 16 zones at a time. When you shoot one down, you pick up your tent, you pick up your tripod, and you move it to another zone. And you keep doing that until every single zone on your map fills with non-shooter animals, besides your 8 to 10 main zones. And once you make it to the point where your whole map is shot down besides your 8 to 10 main zones, you use those extra tents as claim tents. Now, if you don't know what a claim tent is, I will show you very quickly. It's legitimately just a tent that you place on top of the zone that you're shooting, so that way you don't have to run from your tripod that you just shot from to pick up your deer. It just saves time. So for an example, I'll run to this tripod. There's the tent that I just spawned in at. Of course, the mule deer aren't spawned in right now because that's Squidster luck for you, but hey, perfect time for me to tell you guys to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really does help support the YouTube channel. Over 80% of you guys are not subscribed. And you know what? We're just gonna shoot Casper the mule deer real quick. There's absolutely nothing there, but as I mentioned, I'm gonna be as simple as possible here, so look at that. 10 fabled. Let's just blast them into next year, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is open my map after I shoot that deer, and it's either dying or already dead. With Squid Stream, it's probably dying. And I'm literally just going to fast travel down there. This is the zone that I just shot. As you can see, I just placed a waypoint on it. There's my waypoint. I'm gonna jump into that tent. It's placed on top of that zone. And as soon as I spawn in, well, look at that. We just saved about 5 minutes worth of running. I'm having so much fun with this video. Now, instead of running from my tripod, which is 239 meters away, I just fast traveled down here, saved probably 5 minutes worth of time of running, and now I can just claim my deer and move on to the next zone. Now, as I mentioned earlier, don't worry about claim tents if you're in the process of shooting down your exterior zones. Claim tents are only used once your map is fully shot down, just to save time so that way you can get more kills per hour through your main zones. Now, I want you guys to take note that certain grinds are going to have solo zones. There's no way around it. The mule deer grind has solo zones. The fallow grind's really bad for solo zones. And to learn what to do with your solo zones for the specific grind that you're doing, definitely go check out a specific grind guide for that species as I go in detail in those guides, teaching you guys what to do for that specific species solo zones. Now, just so that way you guys don't set up on solo zones by accident, a solo zone is a zone that only consists of males. This can be 1 male, or this can be 4 males. There's no females in that zone whatsoever. That is a solo zone. When you shoot a solo zone, that zone then vanishes and respawns somewhere completely random on your map. Yes, this goes for zones that have multiple bucks or multiple males in them, because as I mentioned, see, being extremely detailed here, Squid's doing a good job. A solo zone is a zone with only males, my friends. Only males. This means zones that have only males in them. Can you believe it? No females, only males. Even if it's 10 males, which is extremely unlikely, I've never seen it happen. Say there's 10 fallow deer males in one zone, but there's no females. That is a solo zone. And from this point, my friends, you legitimately just blast away. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. There's all these crazy things out there that people are trying to squeeze into one video, and it confuses people. It really does. That is great one grinding for any grind in a nutshell. Now, there's certain pieces of information that, yes, you're gonna have to learn for your individual species, that when people try to squeeze them all into one video, as I mentioned, it just confuses people. So there you go. Now you know how to find your zones, you know how to shoot down your map, and then once you've got your map shot down, ooh, that's a giant caribou, you now know exactly what you should do after that. Now just take note that in the process of shooting down your map, if you're doing a grind that has a lot of solo zones, shooting down your solo zones is part of shooting down the rest of your map. You shoot them down just like any other zone, except the only difference is when you shoot it, it will respawn somewhere completely random on your map. Completely random in the areas that they can drink in, obviously. So say for example, this right here, let's just pretend, that's a level 4 mule deer solo. There's only 1 male there. What I would do is I would shoot that solo, and then in the process of running through all of my other zones, which with having 16 tents set up on your map, you're probably gonna end up finding it. You're gonna go find that respawn, and if it's a shooter buck once again, or a shooter male once again, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna shoot it. Can you believe it, man? You're gonna shoot it. And then guess what? Maybe you'll get lucky and that time it'll respawn as a tiny little non-shooter buck, and then it's out of your way. Definitely won't happen every time, but every time you shoot one, there's a 50-50 chance that it can respawn as a non-shooter, and that 50-50 chance is what you're relying on, my friends. Now, another suggestion that I would have for you, after you have shot down the rest of your map and you're rotating through your mains, just doing your grind, is every once in a while, go run through some of your exterior zones. As I mentioned at the beginning of this guide, there can be jumpers. Happens every once in a while. In fact, I've actually had great ones become jumpers. I spawned my second ever great one whitetail in an exterior zone, and God knows how long it was there for. So just because you're confident your whole map besides your mains are shot down, that definitely does not mean you're done with those zones. It probably does, but if you go run through and you find another shooter deer, which I would recommend doing at least once a week in real life time, you can shoot that shooter deer, and especially if you have diamonds or max level animals on your map, chances are really high it will respawn small, as all of the big deer will be respawning in your main zones. If you couldn't infer that at this point, the reason that you shoot down all of your exterior zones is to force spawn all of the big deer into your main zones. So you're grinding off of all of the big deer on your map, which after shooting down your exteriors, all of your big deer and your entire population, or I should say animals, I'm sorry, so I grind a lot of deer, so deer is a habit, but all of your big animals should be in your main zones. Obviously, this is going to result in bigger rares, possibly more super rares, definitely more diamonds, And there's a theory, I personally don't believe in the theory, but a lot of people say that it might actually spawn great ones faster. The developers have told us that great ones spawn purely off of RNG or random number generation, so you could legitimately shoot one male anywhere on your map and that one male could very well respawn as a great one. But then again, I mean, I've had an 8,300 kill fallow deer grind. Let that sink in. 8,300 kills over a 6-month in real life time grinding experience. It's the most miserable part of my entire Call of the Wild career. Back on PlayStation, so that's just proof that it's all RNG. I mean, I've had a 10 kill black bear grind. 10 kills. So it's definitely just RNG. I'll tell you guys that right now. Herd management, I would say 99.99% does not make great ones spawn faster. I don't believe so, a lot of my friends don't believe so, most of my viewers don't believe so. And after spawning 20 of them and playing the game for 8 years here on the 17th of October, I can tell you guys, it's definitely just RNG. But hey, I was literally as detailed as I possibly could have been in this guide. You now should know the basics of how to find your zones, how to set up at those zones, how to shoot down your exterior zones, pick your main zones, and start shooting your main zones. And also I kind of covered some little things like the basics of solo zones, the basics of stacking diamonds. I believe I mentioned a few times that having max level animals in your zone will help you spawn more small deer, which will help you shoot down your exterior zones. Just a little FYI before I wrap up, if you spawn a diamond in your exterior zone, don't leave it there. I'm not going to make you guys go watch a whole nother video just to learn that. Figured I should just toss it in here. You only want to leave max level animals. If you're not going to leave max level animals, or you don't understand stacking yet, completely ignore this part of the video, in your main zones. Never leave a max level animal in your exterior zones, because what this will do is make it so that way small deer spawn more in your main zones, which is obviously not what you want. So without further ado, my friends, if this video helped you, please, I'm legitimately begging you, go down there and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button to get the video pushed to more people just like yourself. These videos literally take 8 hours a day, 7 days a week of my time. As a 16-year-old content creator who does online school, literally YouTube is my entire life, and I'm trying to do this as a full-time job, and I can't do it without you guys. So please, 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 please help me out. Go down there and hit that like button. And hey, as always, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did make it to this point in the video, comment more guides down below. We got another Great One guide coming this Friday, and after that point, I will be making more Great One guides for every single Great One species in the game, even though that I probably already have guides for all of them, but I'll be making updated ones to hopefully help you guys all out on your grinds. As always, my name is Squid, you're watching Squidster Outdoors, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, my gamers.